Start with Jimmy.
Coach, what's impressed you the most about Tyon Evans?
So far, it changes week to week. Tyon's been doing a really good job so far, being locked in practice. Thing that impressed me this past weekend was his pass protection. Something we made an emphasis on. You saw the 75-yard touchdown pass that we threw. I mean, he was right there to protect our quarterback, to keep that guy out of his face and out of his lap. So, this past week I thought he did a great job of being locked and loaded. We made a couple of checks at the line of scrimmage. The long touchdown pass he had on the screen, that was actually a check that we got into the right situation. So, just being focused, more focus and attention to detail is really what I've been impressed with him so far the last couple of weeks.
Adam, and then Britt.
There's obviously been a whole lot of injuries on the offensive line. A lot of guys having to trade out during the game. How aware are your running backs during the game, and what's the adjustment within the game that affects the run game?
Yeah, actually, they have probably not been in tune to that, because we take the next man up approach. No matter who's up in front of us blocking, it doesn't really matter to us. We're going to do our best job to put those guys in the best situation. We understand sometimes those guys don't take certain reps in practice. We're patient. We encourage them as we come back to the sideline. We're always encouraging our offensive line, because without those guys, we know we can't move the ball. Same situation with the tight ends. The tight ends are extremely involved in our blocking scheme, whether it be pass or whether it be run. And we have no clue about who's blocking in front of us. We expect whoever's up there, the coaches put them in that position to do their job and be successful at it.
Jerry, how do you handle running back rotation? Is that a situation where it's by hot hand, or you go into the game going, hey, third series, this guy's going to go? How do you manage your rotation of those guys?
Yeah, we always kind of start with that thought process of maybe 2-1 or 1-2 or whatever the situation may be. As the game progresses, that's where we feel like, hey, we have to get a situation where, maybe a guy has a hot hand and we get him more touches, or we get him more involved in the series. A lot of times you'll see those guys within the course of the series sometimes actually come out, so we can give a guy a more fresh body into the game, especially with the type of tempo that we run. Sometimes coach calls 3 runs in a row, and a guy, hey, we need to get a new guy in so he can be a fresher body. And I think that's what's helped us a ton. Those guys are self-aware to know, hey, we can't carry the ball sometimes 4 or 5 times in a row, so maybe we need to tap out and get a new body in. So a lot of times it just varies, just the course of the game and the flow of the game, but we always start off initially with some type of rotation.
Patrick and Vince.
Coach, obviously Jabari had, I think it was a shoulder that he left the pit game with, came back against Florida, looked like he was still running pretty hard. What did you kind of see from him in his first game back?
He was out in practice all week, and I saw consistently every day he got a little bit stronger and a little bit better. After taking that week off in Tennessee Tech, he was able to come back, and he practiced all last week. I saw strength, the power and the strength. I think taking that week off for practice or that game really kind of helped his strength and helped his body a ton. And I tell those guys all the time, as the course of the season goes, your body's not going to be 100%. That's just not the situation we live in. You're going to have some bumps and some bruises, and it's really going to be about mentally tough, being able to fight through some of that adversity on and off the field, but especially with your body, taking care of it off the field. So that's one thing that I saw from him, just getting stronger as the game went along.
Jerry, D. Beckwith had a good spring. Haven't really seen much of him on offense. Where's he sort of in his development?
Continue to develop, continue to bring them along, continue to grow. All guys take a little bit longer. Some it doesn't take as fast to grow and develop in the system. We got 2 guys right now playing at a really high level. He's still, with us. He's still in the rotation at practice at times, but he's really just fighting and working his way up the depth chart to continue to make sure he's the best version of himself. You just never know in this day and age. We're an injury away from a D. Beckwith being a starter, so we always got him ready to prepare to go.
Wes?
Jerry, it seems like, I know that Jabari's not a small guy, he's not a small back, but the way that he's able to sort of generate power and get some of those +2, +3 runs at the end there, how does he do that at his size? Is it a strength thing? Is it a determination thing? A technique thing? What is it?
I really think it's more about playing with great pad level. Being a guy that's got a really natural instinct to running the football, he really does play with great pad level. And, he has a burst. He has a nice burst between the tackles, which allows him to gain momentum and then play with that pad level. He can generate that power through that way. No, he's not a 225-pound back that's just going to be naturally physically present. But the way he plays below his pads and the way he generates that power, I think that's really the thing that you see.
Jake and Jimmy.
With Jalen Wright coming on strong in the past couple of weeks, what have you seen in his progression and just kind of how he's filled that second or third role?
I think really with Jalen, it's just a continued battle as a true freshman. You know, every week the game plan is a little bit different, and every week we're trying to figure out different ways to get our best 11 on the football field. Last week was a situation where, you know, we had two guys playing really good, and, you know, he wasn't involved as much in the rotation. Who knows what it looks like this week? He may be involved. Who knows what it looks like the next week? So it's just a matter with him as a true freshman. Every week he has a certain skill set that we can use this year and will be used. When that's going to happen or how consistently that happens, you just never know. I think one of the games he ended up finishing the game out the entire second half. So just that was his role for that week, and every week his role should and probably will vary.
Coach, Todd Grantham, the Florida defensive coordinator, said that Kentucky's harder to prepare for offensively than Tennessee. Do you think that Tennessee's offense is hard to prepare for?
I think our tempo helps us extremely. I think the way we get plays in and out of the game, I think the way we get our cleats set in the ground, you can see it from the defensive lines that we play against. A lot of times those guys won't be set. You can see it from the defensive secondary. Sometimes those guys won't always be in position, and we can always steal a couple of explosive plays like that. At the end of the day, we have to make sure that, you know, fundamentally when that ball is dead after an incomplete pass or after a clock stoppage, we're ready to rock and roll. So I do think, you know, the things that we do from formation variations, you've seen a lot more of that probably over the last couple of weeks, and I think you'll see even more of it as we move on. Just always giving and presenting a different look to the defense is going to be our key.
Two more questions, Kelly and Austin.
How would you evaluate Tyon Evans' first SEC game, and then maybe some area for growth moving forward?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I told Tyon from that game was you can see the level and the strength levels in the SEC is a little bit different than some of the opponents that we were playing against. There were probably several NFL prospects on that field that are going to make a lot of money playing this game one day. And the way he ran the ball, always making sure that he plays with low pad level, and always make sure that he's locked and loaded in tune to what's going on. I think the thing that we take away from the game is don't ever play to the level of your competition, no matter how good or how bad. I want to see the same Tyon Evans every single week. I was a little bit disappointed sometimes with the way they came away from Tennessee Tech. I thought he, maybe didn't play as hard or didn't run with great pad levels at times. But you saw this game, a different Tyon. So, this was a great learning tool to showcase what you need to be doing for the rest of the season.
Coach, you're from Memphis. There's some Memphis kids making plays on this team. You recruit Memphis. How important is that area, and how much pride do you take in recruiting your hometown? And then, two, how important is it to maybe add a second back to this recruiting class when you just look at kids are coming and going all the time with the transfer portal?
Yeah, I think, being from Memphis, there's definitely a sense of pride, and I want to see every kid on our roster be successful. But those kids from Memphis, they remind me of myself when I grew up. And, I take a little bit added interest sometimes in just checking on those guys and making sure they're okay, because I understand where they come from. I understand, the schools I've grew up or know a lot of their high school coaches, and that's really, really important to me. That's one of the reasons that I chose and I accepted this opportunity to come to the University of Tennessee. It's kind of my way of potentially giving back to my community as well. I think adding a second back is extremely important, and you can see with the transfer portal and how guys are coming in and out of the programs, you can see how important it is. You just never know what that depth and what that roster looks like. I'm always interested. We're always checking the portal to see what those guys look like. We're always still evaluating high school students to see exactly who we can potentially add to the roster. We're going to take the best football players, the best 25-plus players that we can take, and whatever that looks like, I'm sure Coach Hyper is going to be all in to do that.
Thank you, Coach.
All right, thank you.